Hello and welcome back to another video. Today here again on Gran Turismo 7 to take a look at the second of the brand new cars added as part of update 1.34, which is this Nissan Skyline GTR Nismo R32 generation. This update also includes the greening auto company Maverick, another SEMA winner added to this car, and the Alfa Romeo Giulia GTA Sprint Veloce or something like that. Took a look at that the other day if you want to go and see the video on that, and video on the Maverick coming very soon. Today though, let's focus on the GTR Nismo. This Skyline is available from the used car dealer for 400,000 credits, making it the most expensive car in this update, although the modified car we're going to look at soon is only 300,000, so only just cheaper than it. But at 400,000 being the most expensive car from the update is really reasonable, because usually we have something that is several millions, and given quite how rare these things are, that seems like not a bad Gran Turismo price. So we now actually have quite a lot of Skylines here in Gran Turismo 7, but still nothing on the number of these kind of cars we had in Gran Turismos of old, but still great to see some more variations of it added, because so often we only see the GTR really, which of course we all know a bit better than this one. We know the standard R32 Skyline GTR, we all know what that is, if we can call it standard, because it's already kind of a performance version of that generation of Skyline. This, though, is essentially an even more performance-oriented model, as you would expect with the Nismo name, just like every other Nismo-ified Nissan. It produces 306 horsepower and weighs 1,400 kilos, so it sits at 508 performance points here in Gran Turismo from standard. From a distance, I could actually mistake this for a non-Nismo, however, but when you look closer, you do start to see the Nismo wheels, more vents at the front, and of course the badging on the boot, if you miss all of the other things. Now, I was actually driving quite slowly here, because I was flipping between camera modes, basically, because I found in interior view it was making a really annoying bonging noise, which I discovered it seems to do as you go over 65 miles per hour. So I think basically as you reach what the speed limit is in Japan on highways and freeways and motorways, or whatever you want to call them, it has a bonging noise if you reach the Japanese national speed limit, essentially, which was very annoying, so I started driving it from bonnet cam instead, because in Gran Turismo on a closed road it really doesn't matter if you go over 65 miles per hour, or roughly whatever that equates to in kilometers. But yeah, this version of the R32 GTR is actually a homologation model for Group A touring car racing, huge motorsport in the 90s, limited to just 500 units, as a lot of cars for that series were. The Ford Sierra RS 500, for example, was also limited to that same 500 units. That's how many road cars you had to build to be eligible for that series. And this Skyline, of course, as many of us know, but just in case you don't, was particularly successful in Group A touring cars for a lot of, well, that era, and just monstered everything else on the field, which is kind of what earned the Skyline the Godzilla name in the first place, was essentially the racing version of this car that this is the homologation model for. So yeah, you can tell, it does feel pretty quick. It'll reach 162 or 163 around here, which for a car from 1990 is not bad at all. So then, just like the Alfa Romeo we took a first look at the other day, there is no engine swap options, despite that being a new feature with the latest update. Not that I would want to swap it, because it would be, well, sacrilege, basically, to swap out an RB26 from a Skyline. The wide body, again, I don't feel like really improves the look of it, and I just feel bad doing it to something this rare and exclusive, even if it is just in a game, so I'm going to give that a miss again, I think. The same goes for wheels, especially as we don't need the extra offset because we haven't put a wide body on it. I will, though, take a look at custom parts, where we have, well, an extended carbon fibre splitter, or a... wow. Sure, we won't do the wide body, but we'll put some racing stuff on. That was type B, wasn't it? So it should really match that one, although... I think that's nicer. Oh, right, that just adds that bit, and that does... I mean, there's carbon fibre along the side. Now we may as well do the big diffuser. The wing's interesting, actually, because look, it's got this, like, normal Skyline wing, but then it's got the little ducktail underneath it, which is quite interesting. When you go wingless, that's still there. Oh, I like that, actually. Oh my god. That is quite incredible. I don't really feel like I can do that, though. So yeah, we've got standard, we've got wingless, we've got the one with the little carbon fibre ducktail bit in the middle, which I rather like, actually. We've got a crazy one, and we've obviously got custom wing set. As tempting as that is, I think that looks nicer, and the carbon fibre matches the lower carbon fibre bits. The problem is, when you put a carbon fibre add-on on Gran Turismo, if you go to repaint the car, it paints over it, basically. So yeah, we might end up leaving it in the classic grey with those slightly bronze wheels. If we're kind of making it into more of a racing car and it's race-inspired, I am going to put bonnet pins on. I think it's new enough to fit the modern-looking plastic ones, to be honest. I will also put that slightly more subtle. Tow hook on. Roll cage, I think it probably should go full roll cage. If we're trying to make a sort of racing... I'm sort of halfway between a road car and a race spec car at this point. But anyway. Lights, I will go with super cool. And number plate. We can remove it, but then the middle looks a bit weird without a plate, to be honest. I could go type A, rear only. No, it just doesn't... I'm just going to leave the standard one, because the front looks weird without it. Right, front grille. Okay, we can debadge it, and remove those extra slats, which I think is what I did with the standard version of this, if we can call it that. Sure. So yes, after saying I wouldn't wide body it because it looked horrible, I've kind of modified it quite a lot, so I feel a bit bad doing that given how rare it is. But like I said, it is only a game, so it shouldn't really matter. I will attempt to look at the livery editor, but I suspect it's just going to paint over the carbon fibre, in which case we'll leave it as is. Okay, incredibly, I don't know whether this is an update, but the carbon fibre is still there on the diffuser and the side skirt and the front and everything, so we can paint it another colour. So I'm currently looking through the Nissan colours. The one thing it does do, though, is it removes the Nismo sticker, because that was like a decal sticker rather than a badge. So we've lost the Nismo writing on the boot, but we can now paint it in passion red tricoat, cranberry red, or ultimate shiny orange, which always looks good, although I'm not sure really works on the Skyline. I mean, as it's a racing car, we could go with the Pennzoil GTR colour, but I'm not sure how well that suits it. There is, of course, Millennium Jade, Bayside Blue, or Midnight Purple, but I feel like they're R34 colours, really. Well, as I painted the Alpha in a yellow, I think I'm going to go red on the Skyline for variety, because it was between this and the Pennzoil colour, I think, basically. Just like the Alpha, though, I'm going to do the roll cage in the aluminium. I just feel like that's the... looks like the most, like, just a metal cage in there. Because I think body coloured looks a bit odd, and an accent colour doesn't always work, so I will do that. What is other? Oh, wow. Okay, I think it's finished. Slightly ashamed to lose the Nismo badge, like I said, but we've got a window banner now, and a nice bright metallic red. So in my head I had that I was going to keep this fairly standard, because I've got a non-Nismo version that I could modify, but you can put the new ultra high RPM turbocharger on it, and given that's new and this is a new car, I think we should. That immediately puts power to 511 horsepower, so let's see what else we can do to this thing. But I think it's going to end up as a bit of a maxed out monster, which I suppose is quite suitable given this is the road-going version of the original Godzilla, basically. So, yes, I have gone a little bit mad with this thing. I've even weight reduced it, which I don't usually do with things. But I believe that's as maxed out as it'll go. It's got 873 horsepower, and weight is now down to 1,148 kilos. It's at 773 performance points, so it's not really going to be usable for anything, I don't think. But I wanted to make use of the mad new ultimate upgrades, basically. So we've got weight reduction, I've got all of these power parts, more weight reduction. These parts, obviously everything else repeats later on, so isn't necessarily. That weight reduction, all of these power improvements in the racing section, including, of course, anti-lag, so we'll have to drive it somewhere dark so you can see that. Brakes, brake pads, suspension, all of this sort of lovely stuff, as well as carbon ceramics so that I can go and paint them, and of course the ultra high RPM turbocharger and carbon prop shaft, as well as these bits that are available where these bits aren't. So yes, everything we can possibly put on it, we've put on it. Let's see what it's like. Just out of interest then, before I paint the brakes and get on with driving this thing, I wanted to see how it compared to my 1994 R32 GTR, not a Nismo, which I've modified quite heavily as well, and is quite incredible to drive, and it's really, really, well, fun and easy to drive racing car that I was winning a lot of things with. So yeah, that only has 714 horsepower, where this has nearly 900. They are, of course, both all-wheel drive, and this one is, well, 50 kilos lighter than that as well. So it's 773. They're actually almost exactly the same performance points. The normal one's actually, theoretically, higher performance points, interestingly. So I'm not quite sure why that is when this is more powerful and lighter. But anyway. Right, so I often find this, the red actually looks so good, although, yeah, against red, I guess it's nice to have a contrast. So we could go for yellow, which for some reason is called orange, because green is... Anyway, I think actually on this, either the white with the red text, or I think the gold actually looks the best. So I did actually have in mind that I was going to take part in one of these Nissan GTR Cups, but they're limited to 700 performance points or less. So I think what I'm going to have to do is enter, strangely, the Clubman Cup 550 we can get into, because that's just a recommended performance points, not mandatory performance points. So I think maybe we go in and win some of these ones that I've previously not won. Because it should be quite easy. The only other thing it could get into was the suggested performance point 600 Japanese four-wheel drive challenge, which would make it slightly less overpowered, I suppose. But we did do this quite recently in the Alphard. So I think we go and do one of these Clubman Cup things. This one specifically. Okay, here we go. 3 laps of Autopolis. And conveniently, it's nighttime, so I can engage my flamethrower. Although it's not particularly drivable from exterior cam on Gran Turismo, I never find, so I might have to go to bonnet cam and play around with the flamethrower later once we're in the lead. This is a cool vibe, actually. I don't often do nighttime races on Gran Turismo. Not the track I'm most familiar with, though, so it may not end well. I have to say, first impressions, this feels very much like the other Skyline, which I suppose it should. It's very similar power and weight and performance class. Those turbo noises. We are now in the lead, so watching flames in an exhaust rather than where you're going is not advisable. Also, it turns out it's getting lighter, so we can't actually see it all that well anyway. And it is kind of annoying where the rev counter is on Gran Turismo. I don't think it's movable. I think you can turn it off, but that's kind of irritating. Anyway, enough looking at flames and exhausts, so I'm going to try and win this race. Well, I mean, I'm not really in any risk of not winning this race, but let's go and win this race. Well, I am if I do that. Anyway, let's go and win this race. And just like that, we're going to win it. Unsurprisingly. But yeah, this thing's fun actually. It's slightly challenging. I mean, it's got 800 horsepower, it would be, even though it's all-wheel drive and many grips. But yeah, still a lot of fun to drive. And that is going to do it for a very first look at the R32 Nissan GTR Skyline Nismo here on Gran Turismo 7. Not really necessary to have another Skyline, but it's not quite as ridiculous amounts and versions of this car as in Gran Turismos of old, and the Nismo is quite a cool one to have. I would love the Skyline 400R actually in here if they're going to start adding weird variations of Skylines. But anyway, yeah, the Nismo's super cool to have. Of course, the homologation car to take it Group A racing, which is what gave this car the Godzilla name in the first place. So really cool to see. Not sure there's much advantage over it, over the normal GTR we have in this game, to be honest. Although, yeah, we did find out that was a 1994 car, so that's actually slightly newer. And somehow my build of that slightly higher performance points despite having less power and weighing more. So yeah, in the end I think I probably should have left this one stock because it's a rare, cool, quite exclusive version of the Skyline, and I should leave my other one modified. So I might have to go and pick up another one of these to leave stock, I think, because given none of the cars in this update are that expensive, I think I can probably get away with doing that, especially as we sold a Chiron the other day, which I'll buy back at some point. But anyway, yeah, super fun car to have, but even with the new turbo upgrades, it's not necessarily as good as the other Skyline for racing. So yeah, I would recommend leaving this one stock and modifying the other one if you're going to. But if for whatever reason you prefer this one though, go ahead, modify it. It's still, well, it's hard to say whether it would be good against cars of similar performance to it. But anyway, that is going to do it for a very first look at this Skyline here on Gran Turismo 7. If you haven't already, do go and check out the video on the Alfa Romeo if you want to see that, and I will be back very soon to take a look at the SEMA award-winning Maverick. For now though, for a first look at the Skyline, that is going to be all. So thank you very much for watching, and I will be back with the next video very soon.